Hello, and welcome back to the Misfit Business Lounge podcast. I'm your host, Rosie Victoria, and we are joined by the Jessica Belardi. Now, today we're going to be diving into a topic of conversation for the mamas of the Misfit Business Lounge. So, if you're a mama bear who wants to go on your awakened spiritual journey, step into your power, step into your depth, step into your leadership, this episode is for you. Now, Jessica is a money wizard, a badass healer. She knows how to guide women in their motherhood journey, and I'm really, really excited to connect the two of you. Now, Jessica, what I love about you is your energy and your personality that you infuse into your soul work. There's something about you that brings this like mix of I'm gonna be fierce yet nurturing. I'm gonna guide you into the light while showing you your own darkness. And I feel like that is direct in every facet of life, not just business, not just guiding somebody into what's available for them with their soul purpose, but actually in what's available for them in their journey of motherhood. And there's not a lot of mom content that I consume because it misses the mark on that fierceness that I desire as a mom to remember who I am and my purpose and my depth. So, can you just begin by sharing a little bit about you and what you desire to do for the mothers of the internet today?
Yes, absolutely. That was like such a great, fun description of myself. Thank you for that. But I think it was such a apt description because so myself and my own journey in motherhood have been so different and look so different from other mothers, and it's infused with all the spirituality as well. And I think as mothers, we tend to do this thing where we separate the parts of ourselves. So we have mom Jess, we have wife Jess, we have friend Jess, we have spiritual Jess, and then we have the Jess that we show to the rest of the world, right? So we're this completely multifaceted being, and we separate those facets. And there's fierceness in some of those, and there's softness in some of those, and there's nurturing in some of those, and there's harshness in some of those. And they're not meant to be separated. And on my journey as a mother and through my spiritual awakening and through my business and working with soul-led clients, I've found that those things need to be merged. They need to all kind of come together so we can kind of step into our true essence and our power. And you don't often associate the word motherhood with fierceness or power. Maybe fierceness like mama bear, but power and motherhood, people are afraid to say those words together because we've been walking through life in this world where power is a dirty word because it's associated with something so different than what I'm talking about. When I mean power in yourself. I mean that like fire in the belly, that gusto, that all the parts of yourself that are screaming to get out, that really should be making their way into your motherhood journey, the spirituality, your channel, your fucking aesthetic, your lifestyle. Hope I can curse. Sorry about that. All of that should be making its way into your motherhood journey. And one of the things I want to do for mothers, and the thing that I strive to do and do on a regular basis, is remind them of that. Remind them of the fact that you have all of this power inside of you. And I don't mean like this cutesy, like you have your power. No, I mean you have your fucking power, man. Like you have the ability to be a mother. You have the ability to run your own business if you want, to have the kids see you doing that. On top of it, you have the power inside of you to walk into a room, smudge and sage the entire house, and have the babies walk outside with you and ground and have them know what that means and not be afraid of it. You have the power to do all of these things. And moms, we need a reminder because we sometimes get lost in motherhood. It's easy to do. It's so easy to do, especially when you're on the first baby, because you birth this entire new version of yourself when you birth a child. Like your birth is a portal. Your womb is a complete and utter fucking portal to the other side. You hold life and death. You hold everything inside of you. And when you birth that baby, you birth yourself. And all of a sudden you're sitting here thinking, who in the fuck am I? Who am I? I'm going to try to retain some of my old self, but no, I shouldn't be. I should be this new person. And it gets all muddled. And it's okay that that happens because when we're in this process of finding ourselves, we do have questions and we do have that utter breaking down of ourselves and our soul to only build ourselves back up into this new human. And what I do is remind women that they get to be a new person. They get to kind of pick the pieces and parts that they want to be and join them all together and then stand in the power of who that beautiful woman is.
Oh, what an intro to yourself. I'm like, wow, that
Right.
was hot. Okay. Now, as you were speaking, I wanted to kind of dive into the deepness. We know that when I get unleashed on a podcast episode, like I want to go through the fluff and I want to get to the deepness. And the
Do
thing
it.
that I want to go to today is what do you feel the crisis is for most mothers right now on a spiritual journey, on a purpose journey, on a life journey? Because I truly do believe that there is a collective crisis happening to women in
Mhm.
today's day and age that are maybe battling the I have to juggle it all. And so they're dismissing who they are at the root of it all, or there's something where they feel guilt and shame about stepping into their power. And I feel like we've still got a journey as women to go through to get to that point where we normalize women having it all.
Yeah, I agree actually. And I think a lot of this comes from one programming, things that we've been told not only about ourselves, but about how women should behave as a woman and also as a mother. So we have all of these outdated generational things kind of floating around our head that we think are a part of who we are, but really, it's outdated generational bullshit that doesn't need to exist anymore. And I think a lot of the crisis was that actually a lot of the programming and social media also, which, I know we're sitting here on, a podcast, but at the end of the day, there are so many influences out there and kind of like, not to bring astrology into it or human design, but based on your, blueprint, astrologically speaking, you absorb things in different ways, right? Like a lot of my circuits are closed, which makes total sense. A lot of my shit comes internally. If you're somebody who absorbs, or if you're an empath who doesn't know how to protect yourself, you absorb what society is telling you. You absorb that society is saying you need to be this nurturing Cancerian mother, or oh, you're a Capricorn, you need to hire a nanny and go out to work. You can't be both. And you know what? The beauty, I know the beauty in my own life is that I've seen this from all aspects. I have a lot of aunts. I have this huge Italian family, and I've watched myself and my aunts kind of like go through this journey, and it was really kind of enlightening for me because I have a lot of forward thinkers in my family and I was lucky for that, but it made me see when I stepped into other families where the communication with self was getting lost on women. And I think the thing is we need to look in the mirror and ask ourselves, what do we actually want? What do I actually want? And kind of do the shadow work behind, you know what's stopping me from doing that? Because on a personal level, my journey to stepping into my power really started when I took a good hard look in the mirror and said, it's going to be an interesting one. Why am I not dressing the way I want to dress since I became a mother? Why
Yes,
am
that is
I not
such a big thing though. I feel like there's such a
such,
taboo
oh,
on like
I can't
moms
stand it.
feeling sexy in their body.
Yes. Oh my God, dude, you brought a fucking baby into this world. How did the baby get here, first of all? Give me a fucking break, okay? That still exists. And that part of your life needs to still exist after you have a baby, okay? Because intimacy is a real fucking thing and it actually sets your soul on fire in the best way. So that needs to happen. So that stigma needs to fucking fuck itself. But we need to look at ourselves and ask ourselves, like, I was like, why am I not dressing the way that I want to dress in front of certain people? Why am I not speaking up about my spirituality in front of certain people? Because I had the most massive spiritual awakening when I was 21, but then when I was pregnant, I had a new level of spiritual awakening each time, and they were a massive game changers. I was in my shamanic apprenticeship and becoming a Reiki master within 2 to 3 months of having my Gabriel, my second. And, there were these points where I said to myself, why am I not doing these things? And everything came from the external, not the internal. So we really need to bring it back to the internal and ask ourselves, it doesn't fucking matter. I have this conversation with my 7-year-old daughter constantly. It doesn't matter what people are saying, what people are thinking. 90% of the time, that comes from jealousy or not understanding anyway. So you know what? Guess what? Now it's your job to bring them into the fucking light. Now it's your job to bring the understanding to them, and they can watch and they can either walk away or they can have that be a reflection and ask themselves, what the fuck? What am I doing? Why is this triggering me so much? And if it doesn't really matter though, here's the thing, what it does to other people, what your image and the way that you hold yourself and carry yourself as a mother and a woman, it doesn't fucking matter. And I feel like that itself, there's the activation alone in that phrase. It doesn't matter what other people are saying or thinking. What matters is what you are feeling. Are you feeling good about yourself? Are you feeling confident in yourself as a human being, not just a mother, as a human being? Do I like what I feel like? Fuck everyone else.
Yes, and it's so funny because today is Luna's like Christmas party at school, so they've got in non-uniform because they usually wear uniform Monday through to Friday. And so today was non-uniform day, and she was like, I want to wear this and I want these tights. And I was like, oh, the color clash. But also, girlfriend, if that's you, like,
Yeah.
go for it. And I think this is how we raise kids with personalities. But
Yes.
how can we raise kids with personalities when we're trying to control them? Because our
Hmm.
control for what they wear and whether it matches is actually more of a reflection of our
Oh,
internal journey. And I cannot explain to you how many arguments I've had with my grandma, and she's like, she's a kid, you should be telling her what to wear. And I'm like, if she wants to go out in fancy dress, that's okay. Like, if she
yes.
wants to express herself in that way, that's fine. Because I believe she's a child who needs to be expressive in her identity.
Yes.
Now, on the flip side, being a mom that's just kind of come into the school playground in September, I understand that that's a whole new level of I need to claim myself. I
Yeah.
thought I was pretty out there in my
Mm.
identity and in my truth and in my spirituality and in my connection. And then it's like, okay, these people are adding me on Facebook and now they're getting a little bit twitchy. What's going on? And like, what
Yes.
is
Oh,
the
me too.
energy here? But I
Yes.
think when you see somebody who is confident in who they are, that is very, very triggering to some
Oh,
people.
yeah.
And especially moms who are in that collective state of, ooh, like our job is to be a mom. Our job is not
Hmm.
to be a mom. I don't believe that I was put on this planet to be a mom. I am a fantastic mom, but I don't believe that I was put on the planet to mom. And I
Yes.
think that that's really, really important because how can I be a good mom when my children are my everything? Our kids are going to leave home. They're going
Yeah.
to one day live their own life. They're going to move out. They're going to live their expansion. And I want to know that I still have me at the root of that. I want to
Yeah.
know that they also have a mom that's shown them that they can be confident in themselves. So that when they move out, they claim themselves and they live their most expressive self. But I also think that comes back to village. And you touched on having this village around you, and I know that you have a very sacred, intimate relationship. What do you say to the people that don't?
So this is an interesting question. You just channeled the hell out of that, huh? So this is a very interesting question because I also have women around me who don't have the village, and I do have the village. And my village has been triggering for other women, um, actually. And then I have the friends who aren't triggered by it, who are like, how do I create this for myself? So for the women that don't have the village, this is going to sound maybe a little bit harsh if you're in it, but the truth is you need to create your village. You need to find your village. Okay. I, friendship wise, didn't have the village. I did not have the village. 100% did not. And when I was waking up, the village wasn't what it is now. I was very lucky that my mother followed shortly after myself, and my dad's, always been very, very open. My mom's also an Aquarius, but I had to slowly build this village of friendship. And my advice to you in building this village around yourself is if you don't have the physical blood family, right? Because a lot of the time, we have family members. One, it's okay to not interact with family members. That even though they're family members, they don't have to be a part of your village. Okay. So if you're like, well, I have my village, they don't jive with me, but I have it. They're not your village. It's a hindrance. It's going to show your kids that it's okay to bow to other people's demands, wants, wishes over your own. Okay. So we're going to cut out people that are not actually a part of our village, first of all. Second of all, we are going to allow ourselves into spaces that feel good. And by that, I mean, honey, you got to get out of the house. You need to leave the house. You need to find a way, even if it's with the babies. Like, let's say you're like, I don't even have anyone to watch the kids. Amazing. Go to a mom's group, look it up. Okay. There are mom's groups everywhere. Some of the strongest friendships that I've forged are actually with moms when Ava was really little, you know?
It's the
And
same from like sensory groups or math
yes, there's
groups.
groups everywhere. I mean, literally, like even in our town, like there's baby yoga classes. You're not going to jive with everybody. I mean, I'm a Cancer, and I have all these like, I sound very open, but I have my guards up like any other Cancerian human being. But by that I mean tread. When I say tread lightly, you don't have to go in and be like, I need a village. Let's be friends with everybody. No, you're going to go into these classes. You're going to go to the town library. Go to the town library. This mom's all over that shit. Okay. You have no idea. You don't know. I didn't know I was going to meet Lizzie when I met Lizzie. She's like my fucking sister. I actually can't stand saying that we don't have blood. It pisses me off half the time.
How did you two actually meet? I have been dying to ask this question. So let's just recap a minute.
Real quick, real quick. I'll get back to it. Don't you worry, because I talk about the village a lot. But Lizzie, actually, we met through a mutual friend. I was trying to get pregnant, actually. I was on my way to a friend's house to watch Fuller House when it had come out. Remember when all that happened? We were having like a viewing day, and one of my friends was hosting like three or four of us, and one of our other friends was bringing her college roommate, who she had dormed with in London. And I was like on my way to this thing to watch Fuller House. I got the call from my OB that I wasn't pregnant. Hysterical crying. I called John, and John's like the first person to be like, "Come home to me. Come home to me. Don't go. It's fine. Just come." And for the first time ever, this man was like, "I think you should go." And I was like, "What? I'm not pregnant." And he was like, "Go. I think you need to go to your friend's house and just like have some girl time, and then come home to me after." And I was like, okay, whatever. And I walked into this friend's house, and I remember I walked in through a foyer, through the kitchen, and I turned around the couch and I looked, and Lizzie was there sitting on the couch, and I looked at her and I did a double take because I recognized her. And I thought
Wow.
that was fucking weird. And I was like, how do I know this chick? This is very strange. And I was already like 4 years into my awakening. So like I knew about Pat. I hadn't picked that was the first day I picked up a deck of tarot cards as well, actually. I had never picked up a deck myself. Um, but I did a double take and I looked at her and I was like, hi. And I don't know what the fuck happened. The universe aligned and we just started talking and talking and talking. And we were lucky enough that she was on a trip here for 3 weeks and we hung out, all of us as a friend group, but like we got to talk as much as we possibly could. And I swear to God, the second she went back to London, we were like FaceTiming every day. We were Snapchatting every day. And that was it. That was the end of it. I swear to God, John was on FaceTime. Her and John, we've done readings like they've had a million past lives as siblings. It's the strangest fucking thing. We've gone to readers for it because it's their dynamic's so fucking funny. Um, but even John, who meshes with nobody, he's that Scorpio moon, Virgo sun, Scorpio moon. He doesn't jive with most people. He's very like, he even with Lizzie, he's like, yeah, she's my sister. What are you gonna do?
I love
Yeah,
that.
that was it. I did a double take and we both were like, I thought she looked like Snow White. Fun fact. She had her long dark hair at the time with this like red headband and this dress. And I was like, she looks like Snow White, but I know her.
I love it. Snow White, but I know her.
That's my Lizzie story. That's my soul sister. But that's my point. That's my point about the village. Lizzie doesn't even have kids. Lizzie does not have kids. And if I could leave Lizzie alone with my children for a month, she would know how to mother them and know how to do it well. Your people don't have to have kids either. That's the thing. I didn't
Yes.
know I was going to meet the like one of the main foundations of my village that day. I had no idea, but I made myself go to that hangout anyway. You don't know. You have no idea where you're going to meet your village. My point is get out there. You need to get out there.
And I think it's the power of being willing to put yourself out there, which can be a little bit daunting, especially,
Very.
I gave birth just before COVID hit. So I
Oh,
had Luna
yeah.
for 3 weeks. COVID hits, there was no mums groups, there was no socializing. So she was around 18 months before I started to go to like baby groups with her.
Yeah, I get
And
it. That was
everybody
good.
kind of knew each other. We'd moved to a new place, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna like slot myself in here and see how I feel. And there was certain spaces where it didn't feel good.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of like dating, right? Like I'm not for everybody.
Hmm.
Everybody's not for me. I want to go into a room and be all of me, and I want to feel like me. And if I don't, like I'm gonna back out of that room.
100%. And that's my point about kind of doing it tentatively because I mean, I've even done that recently where I was like, I feel like I'm supposed to start going to yoga classes again. And maybe like usually when spirit pushes me to do things, I know I'm going to meet somebody major. Um, and I showed up at Lizzie and I actually did it together. We showed up at a yoga studio that we thought was going to be massive for us. We went there and we were like, this doesn't feel right at all. We were like, we don't need to connect with a million people. We're going to just bow out and go try different places. But that's the thing. You need to really kind of trust your own intuition and trust your gut here. And even if you're like, my intuition isn't strong, I'm feeling like really like meek right now or feeble, that's fine. You still have, I guarantee you, you still have a kernel of some ember in your gut. You know, You fucking know when some place is right for you and some place is not right for you, or a person is right or not right for you. You know. So use
Ooh.
that little kernel of fire that you have going to assess the situation and then proceed. That's all. It's as simple as getting out of the house, using your gut, and that's it.
Okay. So now I want to go into the mama who's sat there and they're listening to this and they're like, okay, I'm getting activated. And by the way, if I choke, it's because I'm passionate about this conversation. I had to literally mute myself because I was choking in the background. But I think having a village often comes to having supportive partners who say, I see your magic, go and express your magic.
Fuck, yes.
And that's something that is difficult to find.
Yes.
But also, I feel like you have to train that level of expectation from the people you want in your life.
So glad you said that.
Where do your thoughts go with that? Like, where do you?
So I'm going to talk about partnership and marriage for a second. Okay. So if you were to jump on my Instagram right now and look at all my shit, you would look at us and say, myself and my husband, John, and you would say, wow, they have this like crazy strong marriage. They must have always been like this, blah, 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 blah. You know, it's beautiful. And I mean, it is. It was not always this way, you know. Um, this was something that had to be built, and it had to be something that was rebuilt after we had our kids. Okay. A lot of the time we talk about just mothers becoming new humans after the babies are born. And I actually, this is a very unpopular opinion, but I'm going to say it anyway. Um, I think we actually don't give enough thought to the fact that men are rebirthed as fathers as well. Because
Absolutely.
it's bizarre that we don't talk about it, and I talk about it more, I think, than anybody else because John happens to be really open with me about it. And part of the reason we had to rebuild is I watched him after we had Ava. I dealt with really, really bad postpartum for a little while and completely lost myself. And John, I watched him just, I don't know, just become like my greatest caretaker. Like I could see it, like the love I felt from him. And I know I was very lucky in that, but I watched him focus on me.
Yes.
And
And
that's
that's
the
the
point.
alpha energy,
And it
right?
was
Like,
the
show up for
alpha,
me.
yes, it was that alpha energy. And then over time, once I got back to myself, I noticed he stopped spending time for himself. There was nothing for John. It was everything was for me, it was for Ava, it was working, and that was it. And we had to kind of rebuild who John was too. And I'll never forget, I was so proud of him the first time he said to me, "Hey Jess, I think I have to go fishing." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, I need to do some things because I had been saying it for a while. And he was like, "I think I have to do some things for myself." And I was like, "Please go." I was like, "Go do them, you know?" And my point being, it's not like it just happens easily. It's something that you have to build and train. Our marriage is built on communication, friendship, and communication. 100 fucking percent. I have a book sitting in that drawer that we literally have an entire list of things that when we started rebuilding, Ava was about 8 months old, and we were actually not in a great place. We were in a really, really dark place when she was 8 months old. And we I looked at him and said, I'm not willing to continue like this. Basically, I love you too much to not have the person I fell in love with. I can't do it anymore. And I think he saw the truth in what I was saying and was like, fuck, okay, me too, me too, me too. And it like cracked something open. And I swear to God, Lizzie actually had the idea for the communication journal, but we, we literally started a fucking journal and we spent 2 weeks writing down triggers. We spent 2 weeks communicating and getting raw and not reacting. I think the key to communication in your marriage is fucking listening. Simply listening from a place of non ego. There is no ego involved. You are listening to what your partner has to say and you're responding to what your partner has to say. You're not getting defensive about it. Just because you don't feel like that's the truth, it doesn't mean that that's not how they're viewing it through their lens. And the key is for the partner themselves to also recognize that there's going to then be conversation. There's going to be dialogue after because you can listen actively for real. Get the ego out of the way and respond. But that what they said also might have made you feel a certain way. And then you have to talk about that too. It's not you getting defensive once you discuss what they have to say. you then need to be heard as well, right? So it has to do with receptivity, communication, receptivity, non-ego, and then allowing yourselves to talk, literally talk and find the triggers. Because let me tell you something, resentment will fucking kill a marriage. Okay. Resentment kills a marriage. And I think that was the biggest thing. Like triggers and resentment go hand in hand because we have these little things that happen throughout the day. And I know I'm getting like kind of like into like the nitty gritty of this, but this is actually how we rebuilt our entire fucking marriage. Um, I recognize it, little things. So we were like, okay, we have to write down to the smallest trigger. So I noticed when John would get home from work, if he had a bad day at work, he'd walk in the door and be frustrated right away. And I'd be at home like, hey honey, how was your day? Ava blew a bubble today for the first time and I really wanted to talk to you about it. And like, do you want to roast for dinner? Because I'm fucking starving. Like that's the vibe. And he'd walk in and be like, I was in a crane for 7 hours straight and I didn't get to eat. And like I had a call, and I'd be like, okay, well, fuck off. Like, hi, I'm so glad that you're home to see me. And it was like this
Yeah.
back and forth of like, where I'd be like, well, I've been waiting for you all day. I'm so excited to see you. And he's like, I just got home to my person and I need to unload because you're my person. And we're both wanting the same thing. It looks totally different from the other person's lens. So that's like actually one of the first things in the trigger book. John, when John walks in to me and his daughter, I mean now it's Gabe too, he's got to give me 5 minutes. He's just got to give me five. Hi, honey, I love you. Kiss. We have to physically connect in some fucking way. And he's got to give me 5 minutes before he just like unloads because I know after those 5 minutes he gets to unload. He gets to download his whole day to me. But I get 5 minutes of the joy of seeing him. You know what I mean? And it actually transforms the way that he unloads from the day as well. Because we found over time, rather than him just walking in the door and me standing at the sink and him unpacking his bag behind me and talking, it turns into more us touching. Like I finish what I'm doing. We have the 5 minutes where, I get to tell him about my day and we get to talk. It's not like he can't talk. He's just not downloading all the negative shit. We end up sitting together on the couch while the kids are like playing with us, or like I'm standing at the counter and he's already unpacked and then he gets to like stand and like something as simple as touching my hip while I'm doing dishes and talking to him. And the physical contact also really really changes things. That's one.
Yes.
I know I could keep talking about this all day, Rosie, I'm sorry.
No, I
Yeah.
love this though because I think like moms struggle with passion, and especially people I
Yeah.
speak to, they're like, do you know what? I'm lit up in my business. Well, that's not enough. If you're not lit up in your life, if you're not lit up
Yeah.
in your relationship, what is the fucking point in all of this? You
No, I
have to
agree.
feel fucking good.
You do have to feel fucking good. And I think the intimacy aspect of marriage is something that gets really thrown off to the wayside after we have babies because we're touched out. And I think communicating about that is massive rather than, you know, just shrugging off your partner,
My
because
non-negotiable is when the kids go to bed, give me 10 minutes to
Mhm.
feel like a human. Like, do not try to fondle me as I'm
Yes.
walking down the stairs after putting the kids to bed.
Yes.
No.
100%. I completely agree. And I'm somebody who like I breastfed for a long time, which makes it look like it was simple. It was not. I had a really hard time breastfeeding emotionally and physically.
And then
And
it's hard to get in the flow because you're like,
mhm.
I don't feel sexy. These are my feeding jugs. Like,
Yeah,
this is
these are
not
right.
mine
Right.
anymore.
I'm making milk. Hello, how are you? I'm the cow. Yeah. Um, but I think it comes down to talking about it because like John knew like that my boobs were kind of a no-go zone for a long time because emotionally I actually couldn't handle anybody touching my chest at all. And he knew that though. Like I explained to him the anxiety and the tightness in my throat, like down to the little, and I'd say to him like I love you and I want to be intimate in that part of my body and we will again, but right now my entire chest gets tight when you go anywhere near my boobs, really. And he was like, holy shit, I won't go near them, I'm so sorry. And but it came down to me explaining it, and that's one of the things, you have to talk to your partner about your needs and wants. You have to, and I'm not saying like, oh, it's your fault, because it's not. It takes two. There are days when I completely forget to communicate and John's like, honey, why did you just shrug me off? What's going on? He asks the question, he notices the difference. So your partner needs to be aware of things as well. But you need to open your mouth and you need to speak. And a lot of our intimacy and the trust that we have comes from me telling him what I'm comfortable with and what I'm not comfortable with. And through the years of when, the babies were little and I was completely touched out, we found ways to touch when I couldn't. You know what I mean? When I was like, my shoulders are actually a no-go zone when I'm touched out. Don't come near my upper back or my shoulders. Don't fucking come near me.
Which for
But
me, I'd be like, yes, bring it. Like,
oh
give
my
me
God,
a little
and
massage,
I
kiss
don't
my
know what.
neck.
Oh no, I think it's like it's this. If like I'm like, you know what, you want to touch, grab my ass. I don't care. Grab my butt.
Mhm.
That's fine. But like, don't put your hand on my shoulder. You know what I mean? When I'm touched out specifically. But it comes from those conversations, and getting back to the original point of what we were talking about. You you get to build this, and it's not something that you have to do, but it is something that you should do because it's hard to parent when you're sitting there with resentment for your partner, and it's really hard to show the kids, what I mean, running the risk of sounding ooey gooey and kind of disgusting. It's hard to show the kids what love actually looks like when you're sneering at your partner, or your partner doesn't even want to come near you because, he's got his own shit going on that you don't even know about. So connecting and communicating about your needs, your wants, and not screaming it at each other. I know if anybody wants to use this, I'm like all for it because I actually think it's really helpful. John and I, have specific phrases that we use that are keywords that we're like, whoop, gotta listen. This is really important right now. We'll say one of the first ones we came up with, and we still use to this day, it's almost 8 years now. We say, I need to communicate with you. The second I hear, I need to communicate with you. Not that every other communication isn't as important, but this means you need to shut the fuck up and listen to me. You need to sit
Mhm.
down, touch me. That's another rule. When we're communicating, we are touching because it softens you. 100%. Doesn't
Absolutely.
matter if it's foot to foot, it softens you. It's hard. It happens. Don't get me wrong. My Mars and fucking Aries have 100% yelled at John while fucking touching him. 100%. But it's harder to scream at somebody when you're chest to chest or when you're holding hands. And it's hard at the beginning to even do that because you're like, I don't want to touch you. I'm so angry at you. I'm so frustrated. There's so much. It doesn't matter. You need to do it anyway because it softens. 100.
Mm. And
Energy
I
flow. Energy's a thing.
And I feel it's about really being willing to be the listener. But
Yeah.
also, in being the listener, you have to know what it is that you need because the root of all this conversation comes back to what do you need as a mom? What do you need
Yeah.
as a mom who wants to go on a spiritual journey, who wants to connect to her purpose? You
Yeah.
have to listen to yourself. You have to listen to your intuition. You have to listen to what feels good and then decide what you tolerate in the outside world.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting. Like I will sit and listen to mums like riff and rant
Mhm.
about their partner, which to me is it's just not me. If I got a problem, I'm gonna
Same.
discuss it with my man and then like it's done.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
squash. Because I think that's respect and it's how we
That's
build intimate and sacred relationships. But I'll listen to people ranting and the one thing that they really don't know is what do I want? And I do
mhm.
believe that a lot of the stress that comes through mums is unprocessed emotion of I can't communicate my needs. And so
Yeah.
even with children, let's say you fly off the handle and you recognize I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have snapped that way at the kids. But really you're angry about something. And until you sit there and you address that anger, you're going to carry on being angry. You're going to be the angry person in the relationship. You're going to take that out on your kids because really you have an emotion that you need to process and until you start spending time with yourself, how are you going to evolve? Now, what
100%.
did you do as a mom to get to that point of choosing yourself and giving yourself time after you'd gone through motherhood, you've gone through these marriage struggles? Like, what was the journey then?
I think for me, you actually said part of it. What I noticed was I am a better mother when I take time for myself. And there have been lots of times where there's no babysitting available. So I'm going to kind of touch on both of those things quickly. One of my struggles was my postpartum was weird. It was kind of the opposite of other people's, where like I didn't know what was wrong with me. That's what happened. I didn't know what the fuck was going on. Obviously, I had the normal postpartum mommy stuff, which in case this is triggering, I apologize in advance. The stuff where you're like walking down the stairs and you imagine yourself falling down the stairs and squishing your baby, or like putting her shirt on and like ripping her fucking hand off. The
Yes, the
scary shit.
brain. I used to think I was going to fall through the floorboard.
Yeah.
And every
Well,
night when I went to bed, I was like, I'm going to fall through the bed. And the anxiety was
yeah.
unreal.
I completely understand because I had that. The other part of me that didn't know what was wrong with me, my aunt actually knew. My aunt, my mom's youngest sister, and I are very, very alike. She's more like a sister to me than an aunt. And I think it was like day 5 or 6. We were on the phone. I live upstate, she lives in the Bronx, and she was like, I got to come up and talk to you. I know what's going on. And she said to me, you're mourning yourself. And I was like, what? And she was like, your postpartum is different than other people's. A lot of people have children to fill a hole. You didn't. You had a whole life before Ava. You and John had a whole life. You added to your team, is what you did. And now all of a sudden you have this baby and you're mourning yourself. You're mourning your old version of you. And I was like, oh, like full body chills. And it was a journey to figure that, to get back to who I was, but I had to mourn first, right? And once I realized that, I recognized, okay, so I need to like leave the baby with my mom when I go to the chiropractor. It's something silly, something stupid, like going to the chiropractor shouldn't be me time, but it was. You know what I mean? Because it made me feel better. It made me feel good to be able to walk like a straight, straight, like a normal person with my sciatic not fucked up. And so from then on, I started thinking to myself, okay, what can I do? What can I do to make me feel like me? Because I tumble into a really deep, dark space when I don't feel like myself, when I don't embody my higher self, and when I don't embody the next level version of myself. I get really complacent and not okay. And I started making sure that I made time for myself because I also noticed that the middle of the night wake ups weren't as hard when I knew that I was getting out of the house the next day, even if I had Ava with me, so I think that that was when it comes to, yes, okay, you have babysitting, use it, fucking use it. Don't feel guilty about it. Okay, if you have an in-law or a parent or a best friend or a sibling, use it. And also want to use it, like be able to say, you know what, I need 2 hours for myself. I'm going to give you the baby and I'm going to go out. I don't care if you go stand in the yard and ground for 2 fucking hours. Do something, walk into the other room. And I don't mean clean. Cleaning is not you time, unless you're a Virgo like me. Sometimes it's me time. It depends on what I'm
Yeah,
doing.
sometimes it's processing.
Yeah,
Like if I'm
sometimes it's
angrily
okay.
angrily cleaning, leave me alone.
Yes, leave me the fuck alone. Right. If I'm ripping shit out of my fucking closet, leave me alone. That's me time. Um, but utilize the babysitting. Leave the guilt behind. The only reason you feel guilty is because of your projection of what it looks like that you need help.
Ooh, and also you touched on something of like it shouldn't be classed as me time. And I think there's a lot of things that mums do that we have to class as me time when
Yeah.
really it's not me time. It's us just living as an
Right.
identity like everybody else on the planet. And if a dad could go and do that without classing it as me time, so can we.
Right. If a haircut's not a dad, if a haircut's not me time for a dad, a haircut is not me time for a mom. I'm sorry.
Mm-mm.
I don't consider my lashes me time. That's not me time. That's me being able to get up and, not put makeup on to take my kids to school, you know?
Ooh, yes. And this touches on something because me time for me is me being in my passion, is me sat here recording a podcast, is me living out my soul dream, which is to take my business to the next level and to activate women into their fullest potential and support women with making money and drop into spirit. Like that is me time. To me, like all of this is me channeling the greatest extension of who I am. And so, what do you feel soul purpose and me time have to do together?
I think that they can merge for sure. I also think the me time adds to the soul purpose, right? So I talk about this a lot with lifestyle. I wouldn't be able to empower women, run my business, channel magic, channel energy the way that I do if I didn't feel like myself. The
Mm-hmm.
me time creates myself, the myself. The me time creates me, who I am. And then I'm able to step into my soul led purpose as myself. My channel is not going to be nearly as strong as if I don't feel like me. Okay. If I don't have that, if I don't fill my own cup, I cannot fill anybody else's. But the soul led purpose, it does merge with me time. Those two kind of, it's a cyclical thing. It's a cycle where it's like, okay, I have my me time, I fill my cup, I become Jess, I am Jess, I become the next version of myself. Yes, okay, now I get to step into my soul led fucking business in a way that is authentic as fuck. And I get to show up for other women, which is what fuels me. Doing podcasts 100% fuels me, but I'm never going to sit down looking scruffy as fuck and feeling scruffy as fuck to record the podcast. I don't care if I'm recording it or not. I don't feel, and that's just me personally. I don't feel like myself if I don't at least have some jewelry on or something. You know what I mean? Like I need to feel like
Yes.
myself. And so I think those things are actually a cyclical thing. I think that they kind of go round and round and they go hand in hand because you need both.
Absolutely. And so, what is your non-negotiable? I'm intrigued. What is the non-negotiable that makes you feel like you? Because obviously that's going to vary, but I think it's good to categorize this as there has to be some kind of non-negotiable in your system.
I have a couple. I have like probably two really big, two or three non-negotiables, and they're kind of different parts. One, I need my time in the morning. I don't care. I need my 20 minutes. And my kids know it. That is my non-fucking negotiable. John knows it. My kids know it.
I wish
I,
my kids knew it. It's like, Mom, at 6 o'clock, we're playing Mums and
oh,
Dads. And I'm like, no, no,
no, no, you're not. I trained them, Rosie. I trained them. I
I'm
swear to God.
trying. I am
Yeah,
trying.
I set up activities in their bedroom. Actually, that's what I did in the very beginning.
Nice.
And they wake up and they know they have their school stuff. That Ava loves to play school. She's a Capricorn. She loves to play school and be teacher. Gabe, admittedly, I let him play video games in the morning. I really don't care. That's my time. And then the rest of the day, it's on a me, I get to decide basis. But he's got blocks in there. He's got Mario Bowser toys. They know. I'll say, if they come out and they're like, Mommy, blah, 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 I'm like, I'm like, Mommy doesn't even, Mommy's standing here in her nightshirt. Am
And
I
it's not
ready?
normal, is it, to switch on the minute we open our eyes?
No,
We go back
it's
to
not.
pre-children,
It's
like
not. And
you
what
go take
happens?
a shower and have a hot
Yeah.
drink
You need
and
like
just
20
like
minutes.
cleanse your
Even if
face.
100%, that 20 minutes in the morning is my non-negotiable. Sometimes it's five. I'm not sitting there saying it's always perfect. There's mornings that are fucking disasters. But my non-negotiable is I get to at least put my feet in the shower. I get to body shower quick and my vibe juice. Non-fucking negotiables. Body shower, vibe juice, whether it be my like lemon honey water or my matcha or just filling up my fucking tumbler with water and putting intention and energy in that's my non-negotiable. And the other non-negotiable thing that makes me feel like me is my extensions, actually, my hair.
Ooh, I
My
like
hair
it.
is very, very attached to my higher self. It's weird. Like I, and John knows it too. Like he knows it's the one thing. Like I know that when I have like I've done different extensions over the years, but I don't go cheap on those. Like I have the best of the best in my fucking head. And I take them out when I want. But when I 90% of the time, I do actually have like at least one or two rows of extensions. And because it makes me feel more like myself. It's a
Yeah.
complete non-negotiable. Doesn't matter what's going on in life. My extensions are it's a priority. And John knows it and he says nothing about it. Although he does like to play with my hair. So when I take them out, he gets really fucking excited. But other than that, he doesn't like it because it's a non-negotiable because it makes me feel like myself.
Yes,
But that's an
absolutely.
anything.
And I think, going back to that non-negotiable thing, it has to be a ritual. It has to be a commitment
Oh
to you.
yeah.
There's certain things that I know recognize don't make me feel good. Like if I was to sit down after rushing around like crazy in the morning and have not done my things, I wouldn't be able to be passionate. I
Oh my
wouldn't
God,
be
me
able to step
neither.
into my purpose. And
Mm-mm.
even though like last week we all knew that my reality of December has been an absolute shit show, like we've had virus after virus.
Yeah.
But it's like, and what? Like, I'm gonna go into my office, I'm gonna channel my magic, I'm gonna
Yes.
drop some offers, we're gonna make some money, we're gonna play with
Yeah, you don't lay
energy.
down. You don't just lay the fuck
Yes.
down. Yes.
Or
Sorry.
even the kids were still slightly poorly on Sunday, and I was going out for dinner with my aunties and my mom and my grandma, and I was like, I'm going. I'm
Yeah.
going. You guys are getting better. Like, I'm going, I'm out of here. And I think we have to be selfish as parents to
Yes.
refuel ourselves. Because I could have not come back this week without having those hours away from the children after being in that suffocated sickness
Yeah.
energy.
Mm-hmm. No, I completely agree. You need that. You need that. And you need that to be, I am a better mother. I'm 100% a better mother. I can listen to Ava, she's 7. So she's talking a lot right now. We're talking a lot about friends and boys and outfits. And first thing in the morning, if I didn't have that time to myself, I don't know that I'd be able to really be that receptive to 15 minutes of, I love my daughter, but jabbering, you know what I mean? Like she's in
Yep.
that jabbery thing, and so I agree. Like we absolutely need the time to step away. And I think the other thing too is not referring to our partner as babysitting.
Oh, that literally
Mm,
grinds my gears when people are like,
yeah.
"Oh, I'll ask my partner if he can babysit." No, he signed up for
Nope.
this. He
Yeah.
is half of the parent here.
Yeah.
No, you do
No.
not.
No. And if that's a thing, we need to start to eliminate that phrase because the second you start to see your partner as babysitting and that gets in your head, it's like you then become the sole parent in your mind, whether you realize it or not. And so you also start to take on more of the responsibility that you really could be delegating. If even if your partner is somebody who doesn't necessarily take initiative, you could delegate easily. but you start to take it on as on all on yourself if you're like, I'm the parent. They are, whatever.
And
You
if
need.
your partner can book something in the calendar without having to think about it, so can you. Like you
Hmm.
shouldn't have to check whether it's okay
Yes.
with them before you go and do the thing. Yes, there gets to be that communication about the
Yeah.
plans,
Sure.
but ultimately, if he can leave the house and the house not burned down, so can you.
Yes. 100 fucking percent. I agree. Yes.
Well, looking at that, how can we work with you? There's going to be a lot of mums right now that are thinking about their purpose, their me time, their non-negotiables, rebirthing themselves, their identity, their relationships. What does that look like stepping into your world?
Stepping into my role, we'll have some new fun stuff that's going to be really, really exciting dropping in January, where you kind of get to step into my world every single day on a regular basis, and kind of live in this lifestyle and energy with me. So that's going to be dropping in January. We've talked about that. But right now, I have something new brewing, this manager shift session that is one-on-one with me, and we dive into your mindset, because the thing is, I can do shamanic healing on you. I can rip stuff out of your past, your past lives. You do reiki on you. I can do all that. I could channel, I could pull cards. If we don't get your mindset right first and figure out where the triggers and the shadows lie in your everyday life and what's kind of holding you back, I can't, none of that healing work's going to do anything. It's like a chiropractor. You know what I mean? You keep sitting the same way, you go back every week, they're going to adjust. You got to fucking change the way that you're sitting. We got to shift the way that our mind is working through everyday life. So that's what this manager shift session is for. It is like an hour with me sitting down and actually talking through our mindset and what's not working for us. And then we dive into the energy work that maybe is needed. Maybe we do need to cut some cords from past relationships or family members, maybe a mother lineage, father lineage, whatever. We dive into the energy work there. And then we talk about tangible steps to continue to grow in our mindset and to continue to keep it steady and then continue to step into who you are. We're going to sit there and figure out actual, what's the word I'm looking for? Action steps forward so
Yes.
that we can actually make it count. Because that's one of my biggest things. Like, I hate walking away from a session without action steps. Like, that's all fine and good what we did, but like, how am I going to continue this work? That's what the action steps are for. So that's a major part of this session. So there's that manager shift session. And then this extra special thing that's going to drop in January. But that session is kind of my number one star right now.
And what I'll do is I'll drop all of Jess's links down below so that you guys can go follow her. You can have access to her offers. And I think the beautiful thing here is you're building a non-codependent relationship with your clients. This is not about being dependent to a healer. It's about raising your own fire, learning to rebirth yourself, rebuild yourself from the ashes. This is who Jess is at the core. And her signature, like when I'm tapped in and channeling spirit, your signature is literally rebirthing people from the ashes. And so if you're feeling like a burnt out mom, you've lost your voice, you've lost your truth, you've lost that connection with your passion, then this is the person you need to rebirth yourself to the highest level, whilst also setting a standard that you want more from life, whether that be through career or whether it be through other avenues. You want more, and that's okay. So
Hmm.
thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
And if you have any questions for Jess, drop them down below and I'll get her to engage with you as well.